Hopkins University, the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. My name is Jo Colontonio. I am thrilled to have this partnership with Dr. Caldwell and FDU Rothman in order to bring the program that I'm absolutely passionate about, which is executive leadership coaching. And we've been doing it for several years. We just finished up another well, actually, I shouldn't say that. We're just starting another cohort, and we're in the last month of our last cohort. And I'm happy to hear that there may be some alum on the line, or maybe potential students that know a little bit more that can chat about it. So our program, you want a little bit about the program, Dale? I'm not sure how much they know or what the audience is.
Start from the beginning, because a lot of people don't know.
Okay, great. So the Ignite Excellence in Coaching program is a 135-hour International Coach Federation accredited educational program. The International Coach Federation is the global leader and is the gold standard within the coaching industry. For those of you that don't know, just to chat a little bit before I go on a little bit more about our program, just to give you a little bit of the background on the ICF, just a few numbers. Currently, there are 50,000 professionals that are ICF members worldwide. Our goal is to have over 100,000 members within the next few years. So I'm just trying to see how many, I'm just trying to grab how many countries we are in, but that number is, it's over 100 countries worldwide.
Wow.
So to be accredited and to have our program, Dale, accredited by this organization there isn't anything higher, right? The credential actually speaks for itself. And that's one of the values of going through our program, because we are a worldwide leader in this type of education. So our program that we're offering together is a 135-hour coach training program. We focus on executive leadership, but as you know, coaching as a modality is a business, and it's about human capital, and every problem, whether it's business, leadership, career, every business problem is a people problem. So we are working with individuals, teams, leaders, organizations to help them to increase their personal self, which will then therefore improve their performance professionally. So I like to say personal development for professional performance. The cohorts there are 4 of them. They run over about a semester. So it's similar to just taking a college class, but it's set up very much like an executive MBA program, where we meet together for 3 days and we do coursework as a group. And then about a month will pass and we'll meet weekly. And you'll also be meeting with your small groups and with your peer partners and with your mentors. The program is extraordinarily experiential, which I think a lot of the feedback you've been getting at the office has been. Our goal is to train the best coaches in the world. My personal goal is that when someone hears a graduate from this program, they went through an Ignite FDU program. Just their skill, the tools, the way they present themselves, the results that they get. So I really want to make an impact on this coach-driven leadership model, or as Dale refers to it as leader as coach, correct?
Coach leadership.
Coach leadership. Very, very, Sir John Whitmore, I believe, from the 80s coined the leader as coach phrase. I believe that's probably where I got that from.
Absolutely. Yep.
And he was the first one to look at the old hierarchical model of command and control and transition into collaboration and engagement. So in addition to meeting 4 times together for 3 days, As I said, we meet during the week, but there's lots of contact and communication in between. You are definitely part of a community, and we are building a fabulous alumni community. We have 4 to 5 years of alumni put together, and they are doing business together. They are supporting each other. They are collaborating together. So once you go through our program, you are always an FDU Ignite student, and you will always have our community here as a resource for learning and growing. We also are developing ongoing programming. So in the summer, we are going to be launching a team and group coaching program. We are going to be doing some business development programs, and whatever else Dr. Caldwell has up his sleeve, we will make sure that we can put together for all of you.
So, Joe, talk a little bit about the vulnerability. One of the beautiful things about the program is that, I know when I went through my program, I'm not one to tear up and so on, but to really expose yourself, to be a good coach, you really have to put yourself out there. Talk a little bit about that for the audience.
I will. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that this program is truly transformational. And my students will hear me say over and over again, you have to have the breakdown before you can have the breakthrough. And we have breakdowns. If any of my current students are on the call today, I will share that they literally were coaching me, and for about 30 minutes, and I was in tears, and they made me feel safe enough and comfortable enough that I could allow myself to be vulnerable. And I think the learning for them was to be able to hold that space for me. And each one of them has had a similar experience. I will tell you that one of the code of ethics for the International Coaching Federation and the ICF core competencies is the confidentiality and the fiduciary and the sacredness of the coaching conversation. We hold our coachees or our clients in what we refer to as the highest positive regard. And before we launch any type of education and teaching, we establish a group charter or a team charter for our cohort. And the confidentiality is in place. So whatever happens in this class stays in this class. Whatever is shared in this class stays in this cohort. It is in the vault. And I think that creates that safe space for being vulnerable. I reference Susan Scott's work a lot, Dale. I really love her book, Fierce Conversations. And she says something similar to, a fierce conversation is when you come out from behind yourself and make the conversation real and stand in your vulnerability and allow that connection. And she also goes on to say something similar to the conversations that we have are actually the relationship. The conversation is the relationship. And I think that statement is pretty profound, don't you?
Very, 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 very powerful. And especially now in this time when we're dealing with getting out of a pandemic, dealing with war, dealing with jobs and other issues, this kind of program that allows you to be vulnerable without judgment is just so rare and so important. And so even those that may not have said, I want to be a full-time coach, this is the kind of program that, as I've talked to folks, is really worthwhile for folks beyond just the superficial money-making aspects of it.
Yeah, it is personal development for professional success. And I think the feedback has been that we create an environment where we have peer-to-peer coaching. So you are matched with a peer client during the cohort. So you receive coaching and you give coaching. We also have group peer work. So in smaller groups, individuals are getting together. And we also are logging in credentialing hours for when the students are ready to apply for their full ACC or PCC certification with the ICF. So you are leaving the program with a head start towards that first bundle of hours.
Could you talk about each section of the program, just to give people an over idea, and then we can go a little more granular. How do you break it up for the folks?
Sure. So again, one of the coaching core competencies and the foundation principles is to meet the client where they are. So the program is very fluid, and my students will tell you that I do my best to meet them where they are. So we break it down really at the pace that they are at, knowing that we will complete 135 hours or more for the program. So we initially start out with looking at the difference between transactional coaching and transformational coaching, so that they really have a feel or know of what we're doing. And the first cohort, we're having breakdowns to get breakthroughs. So they are really working on themselves. They are developing a coaching mindset, which is one of the new core competencies. They are looking at their value systems. They're looking at leaks in their buckets. They are looking at where they need to clear the decks, right? And begin looking at their own personal thinking patterns, thoughts, reactions. So they actually are going through transformation for the first 2 days, doing personal work, but they don't really realize that they're doing it. So now I'm tipping my hand a little bit about our program, but they are in it. So from day one, the first hour, they are coaching. And when they leave the first cohort, they have enough skills to begin. They can go back to their organizations and start coaching. They're coaching with their peers. They're also able to get clients. So out of the gate, we're setting them up for success, but it is like building a house. So cohort 1 is building that foundation, getting really strong.
The self-awareness, just really know yourself.
Self-awareness, awareness of self, awareness of others, right? We also sort of plant that seed early on. I love to use John Maxwell's quote, and I don't know that it just stands. He uses it in the leadership in a leadership role, where he says, great leaders know the way, show the way, and go the way, right? And I believe that is with everything. Great mothers, great dads, great teachers, great safeties on the playground, right? It's that embracing and communicative culture that moves forward. So we establish that very early because we have to establish that safe environment. And then we begin to build the framework as to adding tools along the way, right? Working on a lot of our personal challenges, looking at different methodologies, looking at different assessments, really learning to how we're going to develop a full practice. We also then begin to look towards the end, towards business building, and where are we going to take this from here. The one thing that I felt was missing from my training years ago, and that we don't see, is having an actual tool set. So the students leave with over 50 tools in their hand to use. And they also leave with a familiarity of other modalities and other things that they can use to bring into their practice, so that they really are by the time they're done, they feel pretty secure that they have a strong foundation and they're ready to just take off in their practices.
Wonderful. And so when you for those that don't really understand coaching, I mean, what really is coaching? Is where this self-awareness, and when you're coaching, it's not just asking people questions and just, it's so much deeper, and it's so much more connectional. Talk about for those that don't understand, what really is coaching from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was ready for us this time, Dale, because we had a little giggle last time about what is the ICF definition of coaching. So I have it up. So the ICF, International Coaching Federation, defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. The process of coaching often unlocks previously untapped sources of imagination, productivity, and leadership. So what we are really doing is we are connecting an individual's inner purpose and passion to an external goal. And then we, as the coaches, help them bridge that gap and create a strategy for success. And we support them along the way, including the most important part, holding them accountable, right? And taking them through to the end and championing them when they get to the end of the road.
What are some of the tricks that we have to hold other people accountable? We have to hold ourselves accountable. And so what are some of the tricks that you have to really help people begin to hold themselves accountable for kind of doing the right thing?
Yeah. So we have a very structured, there's a very structured area of the program where we go through goal setting and accountability. And it's a process that you learn, that you train in, that we train our coaches with in the program to really ensure that they can get that accountability piece. I would say that every coach, if you are an ICF coach, you learn to, in the beginning, when you're creating your coaching agreement and setting the foundation, you work with your clients on what all those terms are. And one of those is accountability. And I will very often ask the client, how would you like me to hold you accountable? How can I support you? Because they'll tell you. If I say to you, Dale, I'd like you to have this report to me by Friday, there's no conversation. But if I say, Dale, when do you think you can have this report ready for me? It puts you, it leaves the power with you, right? Or, Dale, how comfortable are you meeting this deadline? And then I would get input from you. So it's really sort of a negotiation, but then it's really holding and honoring, always honoring what the client wants. But we do have some systems that we teach and that we use that are seamless. And, the coach is using the skill set. The client may not be aware of it other than that their presence. Again, coaching is a process. And also remembering that, Dale, as you and I know, coaching does happen in the session, but more often the powerful insights and experiences happen in between the sessions.
Right.
So it's at that session afterwards, or what are you doing? How are you keeping in touch with your client in between sessions so that you can monitor the progress and the accountability? So, so if you want to really get into accountability and achieving goals and improving performance, come join us in May. Shameless plug, right? Come join us in May. But we have lots of tools to support with that, and exercises.
And the classes and their accountability partners too.
Yeah.
Helping each other hold themselves accountable and developing that process. And so, okay, so you're going through there. What else? Say some more about the course and the program and what you're teaching the group.
So, we sort of use this process where, the concept is taught, right? And then it's exemplified. So they'll see me use it, and then they get to practice it, and then they give each other feedback. So there's constant learning. I mean, we even have a system that's very specific to giving feedback, so that feedback is not internalized. It's heard, it's processed, right? And then how do we take that information to show up better in our role as a coach, which is what I love. I love when I can see that happening, because as coaches, we sit in a place of non-judgment. Dale, what was the last question that you asked me? I just want to make sure I answer that question. I apologize. More about the curriculum, did you say?
Just say some more about the, kind of take us through some more of the curriculum, because I think this is, people are starting to really understand that this is a self-awareness of accountability. But what else? Where do you take folks in the program?
So I will tell you that the one point that we do want everyone to know is that it is a virtual program. I promise you will not be disappointed. We are up, we are moving. We do everything from scavenger hunts to brainstorming, to building our own coaching models, to welcoming and meeting each other's family members and pets. And so it really, really builds community. So we go through a process. So the first portion is really learning the foundations of coaching, right? We're setting the stage for what those foundations are. And we do that through that process that we just discussed. I also bring in a lot of speakers as well. And one of my special things that I love is that every student gets to share a skill set that no one else has, that's true only to them. And then we move into mastering your inner game, and really coaching and leading yourself and others, and what are emotional and emotional wakes and how to handle them. So all of the information that pertains in that area. So the next area goes through, and this is where we talk about accountability, growth, achievement, and accountability. And we get into more principles and tools and techniques. We learn more about the deeper techniques. So again, coaching is just not about asking questions. People seem to be stuck on that point, but how do you have a conversation if all you're doing is asking questions, right? And then the last phase of the curriculum is really looking at each individual student's body of work and how they are going to begin to develop that body of work, encompassing what they know now. We also throw up pop-up classes. So if we get on a topic that's like a real interest, we'll do a pop-up class. And that's sort of like a wild card topic. And it could be on anything from a coaching skill or a business development piece. So one of our pop-ups, let me see, what are some of our pop-ups that are coming up? I don't know if I have them handy, but I know one of the pop-ups is going to be on technology. It's Google Drive. So that was something. And then, and again, this is not within the 135 hour curriculum that's approved. These are just, again, building community. Maybe they want to talk more about active listening. So maybe we'll do a pop-up. A big thing is one of our pop-ups is going to be on, when you get that, when you ask someone a question and they say, I don't know. Coaching around, I don't know. I mean, it's challenging, right? So again, very customized for each cohort, for each group, following this approved curriculum, but meeting the students where they are.
Wonderful. So as you're going through this, and people talk a little bit about the hands-on coaching that people are really getting to practice, what they're learning along the way. I think that's a powerful thing that people need to understand.
So we do that in a few different ways. I will tell you that, so we do it in a few different ways. The one way that we do it is what I refer to as round robin coaching. So we may be, depending on how many people we may have one big group, or we maybe have a few smaller groups. And in that scenario, we have one coach and one coachee, right? And then everyone else is observing. And so they get to give, the coach and the coachee get to give each other feedback. The coach gets to do self-feedback, and their peers get to give feedback. So those are insights that you can't get on your own in a room at your house or in your office. So that's one way. The other way that we do it is with the peer-to-peer coaching, and that's one-to-one. So with the feedback in that situation, they give each other feedback. And then I'm saying this to make a joke, because when they are in their breakout rooms and they are doing one-to-one coaching, I will often pop in to listen and to give feedback, like live in the moment feedback. We also give written feedback. And occasionally they know that they're allowed to kick me out of the room because if they're having a conversation and it's their fiduciary, it's their confidentiality. So I will tell you that my students have said, get out. And I have to meet the client where they are and get out. So they get live feedback from me. They get feedback from each other. They also get written feedback from me. So that's part of the supervisor and the mentor coaching.
So you know, we're talking a lot about. I was doing some coaching this morning with a client, and it's becoming more and more popular and more accepted with
Yes.
folks. And the analogy I use is the best players. I'm a big tennis guy, so Roger Federer has a coach, Rafael Nadal has a coach, Novak Djokovic have coaches. So coaching is not this punitive thing that get better. It's really about you becoming extraordinary. And so for those that don't understand, talk about that.
Yeah. So I love to explain the difference. As a matter of fact, the tagline from Ignite Business Partners is building extraordinary leaders, teams, and organizations from the inside out. That in itself encompasses what this is. But just to take that one step further, I share with my students that we have to spend a lot of time, even with our clients, explaining the difference between therapy and coaching and other helping modalities. So I like to give them just this sort of little nugget to say that therapy takes you from dysfunctional to functional, and coaching will take you from functional to optimal, or ordinary to extraordinary. It takes you to the next level. And you know, the one thing that I do really want to mention, Dale, and I don't know how much time do we have today, because
Well, now, so we have about another 30 minutes.
Oh, we do. Okay. All right. So I hope that sort of clarified that. People come to coaches because they want change. We are change agents. So when someone comes to you, they really want to do the work. And really what holds us back, when you really look back at every one of these situations or all of these circumstances, that it is fear that holds us back. And people are willing to change when the fear of staying where they are is greater than the fear of where they're going. So a lot of times, that's where you're meeting that person. And it is truly, I know you're a coach as well. It is truly an honor to be with someone on that journey and support them. It is really, truly an honor.
Absolutely. And just the other thing about coaching for those, you know, I'm involved with some hospitals and others, is that the organizations understand by having senior executives well coached, it helps the organization be that much more effective, that much more profitable, that much better. And so it's becoming an accepted way to improve performance going forward.
Yeah. So years ago, you know, command and control was the name of the game, right? And we saw different players, and every time you mention your athleticism in tennis, I think about Tim Galloway's The Inner Game of Tennis, who was really one of the thought leaders in coaching. And he is where we get that inner game and outer game from. He does a great, let me see if I have a note here, really, if I can get it quickly, I will read it to you. I think he spoke about it really eloquently in his book, where he said, inner refers to the athlete's internal state of mind. In his words, quote, "The opponent within one's head is more formidable than the one on the other side of the net." Galloway goes on to explain that by removing internal blocks to performance, the inner game, right? One's psychological attitude, right? One's own doubts, limiting beliefs, that voice that's already always talking, right? When we're speaking, all right? A person's natural ability to learn and perform will step up, right? The outer game, or the physical skill and ability. And that can actually occur without much technical skill from the coach. That was his finding. So the struggle from Galloway, this is the first, I say the first time, but it really was smacked us all in the face that it's that inner struggle and those inner thoughts, right, that can overcome skill in any situation. And I think that's really the coach's playground, right? That inner game. And I'm sure you've seen that with your clients. In addition to your position at Rothman, you have an amazing leadership organization and work with very large and diverse companies. And I'm sure you see that a lot.
Well, really, Joe, with everybody. I mean, everybody, even on this count, whether they're looking to be coaches or not, that inner self, that inner voice that tells us we can't do it. We all have them. There's no one who doesn't have that voice, and it could be about different things. That holds us back. And so when you begin to really think about it, that's why I think it's beyond just this coaching class. It's really thinking about life, thinking about how you can be better, how you can be your best self going forward, and there's certain tricks and tactics that actually help you do that.
Absolutely. And Dale, we have approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. Each one of us has approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those 60,000 thoughts are repetitive thoughts every single day. And if that's not bad enough, 80% of those habitual thoughts are negative.
Wow.
So that's what we're working with, right? So that's where we say great thinking can really change our lives, right? Where the mind goes, I like to say energy flows. So it's very important for the coach to work on their mindset before they can begin to work on someone else's. And
Joe,
the first cohort, we really spend time there.
You really spend a lot of time on this. So my friend Lynn Rothman is on here. Lynn goes between Atlanta and California. So he's a mindful tennis coach. And so if you see in the chat,
I coded a little Galloway for him, and I thought I was
exactly.
Just use it.
We have some tennis experts, and so Lynn, I don't know where he goes between California and Atlanta. I'm going to San Diego. If you're around San Diego, let's get together this weekend if you're there. But so text me. But yeah, Lynn has been doing this through tennis and other coaching and other things, and so. But this is more than just external coaching. It's really, and especially in this stressful period, it's time to begin to think about. Thinking about our inner self and thinking about, how we can help our family members. I mean, I use some of the coaching techniques with family and friends. And so talk a little bit before we go. I really want to talk about powerful questions and active listening, the 4 levels of listening.
Yeah.
And so I want you to share that with, because then I use in all of my presentations, and it's part of our coach leadership. So say something about that.
Okay. So, in order to maintain the confidentiality of the class, of the current cohort, I can't mention any names, but I am going to share that some of the students, and these are professionals, these are continuing ed individuals, are coming back and sharing that they use this technique with their teenage daughter, with their son. So it is amazing that, and they're getting a different response. And Dale, that's a great question, because that takes us back to, we put this label on coaching for the business and leadership arena, right? It's executive coaching, it's business coaching, it's leadership development coaching. But the same skills that you are learning in any ICF accredited coach training program are transferable to family, interpersonal, relationship, wellness. I'm sure I'm forgetting out. We have ADD coaches that are ICF certified that specialize there. We have divorce coaches that specialize in divorce. Men's health coaches, overall wellness coaches. So although our program tends to attract individuals from a university setting, we do have yoga instructors in our classes, right? We do have authors. We have had licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, individuals that are taking these skills and they are using them in more of a life coaching situation, and always with family. I will tell you that I was able to get away with coaching my daughter without her knowing it until high school. And then I started to get, Mom, are you coaching me right now? Now at 22, she'll say, stop coaching me. So you absolutely, this is coaching is all about emotional intelligence. And we are seeing a significant rise in an interest, as you alluded to earlier, about with emotional intelligence in companies as well, looking more at work-life balance. So right now, this is in the forefront. We see there's a lot of change happening in organizations. Change brings coaching. So this industry is on the rise. I think I was reading this morning. I don't know if I don't believe I have it handy anymore, but it's an industry that is growing at significant rates. We know the education and the higher level of education, like our program, is what is really bringing coaching to the forefront. Here we go. Let's see. I have a quick number here. That's in the past 10 years, just the past 10 years, the total number of International Coaching Federation members has increased by 160%.
Wow.
So more than 20,000 members have joined in just the last 5 years alone. In December of 2021, they had the highest record of members join. And this is directly from the ICF. In December of 2021, they had 2,193 members just in December of 2021. So awareness is on the rise, education is on the rise. Programs like ours are bringing the modality to the forefront in a professional setting. And the skills are being used not just by executives, not just by leaders, but by psychologists, licensed clinical social workers. Even though we are very different than what they do, coaching is not therapy. They are, at least the students that have been in my classes in those modalities, are adding it to their tool belt. So I love to see that. I wanted to share that Len said in the chat that he coached a tennis player and she went on to get a D1 scholarship, and she did remove her inner blocks. So thank you, Len, for sharing that.
Len's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. So talk to me about powerful questions and the 4 levels of listening for the audience, because I think that's a tool they can walk away with.
Yeah. So powerful questions. I like to use the word empowering questions, right? So questions that are going to elicit the individual actually expanding the neuroscience, or the neuroplasticity, I should say, in their brain. When we are coaching, we are trying to, a lot of times, sort of bypass that logical thinking. Yes, it's there, but sometimes the problems that we have that we created with logical thinking can't be resolved with logical thinking, right? We need to look at it from a different perspective. And that is a lot of what those empowering questions are. They can be stretching, they can create flexibility, they can create growing, they just create a space. They create a way for you to get out of your own way, to get out of the box, to look at things from a different perspective. And they're very important. But equally important if not more important. And we talk about superpowers a lot in our class. And one of our superpowers is listening, right?
So Joe, before you go to listening, I want to, on the questions, so often, and even in couples therapy, it says that if you want to start an argument, say why. Ask the question why. And so these questions can be chaotic questions as well. And it's important. So even as people walk away from this, to really think about, practice your questioning with the people you interact with.
Yeah.
To see how people respond to different questions. I always give people that exercise, and you start to see the power of coaching. So again, I want to stop you, but you go on to listening, because the questions are so much more important than people ever think about.
And think about when you ask, I did it. I'm sure you did it. We all did it, right? We are all far from perfect. Think about when you ask a closed-ended question. When you ask a closed-ended question, you're going to get maybe a one-word answer or two-word answer. Did you like the movie? Yes, I liked the movie. What did you think about the movie? You're getting more information. And that's, now, if you can ask, what were some of your positive takeaways from the movie? What are some of the things from the movie that you feel you can incorporate into your life? Now they're getting more empowering, right? Just some examples, and asking questions like that is a muscle that needs to be developed. And we spend a lot of time on that so that those questions become second nature. Over the past few years, we've had a few people, a few attorneys, a few physicians in the class, and they tend to ask leading questions. Although I will say I have one superstar student right now that is an attorney that does not ask leading questions. And that was my assumption that he was going to do it. And you know who I'm talking about, Dale, and he's amazing.
Yes.
I can't wait to watch him coach you, right?
Yes.
If you ask the leading question, you're pretty much telling the person what to do, right? In a courtroom. Isn't it true that you stole that piece of candy, right? You're telling them what you want them to say. So the questioning is very, very powerful. We always want to ask open-ended, empowering questions, very often that are solution-focused, sometimes probing. And again, you pull in your different skills. With listening, people read a lot of articles. Everybody thinks that they're a great listener, right? But in coaching, we don't listen just to hear what the person's saying. We listen to understand. So when I teach listening, they're learning about the different levels of listening and listening to understand what the speaker is saying. And there are a host of skills that you use to do that. I think you asked about the 3 levels of listening. So
Yeah, 4 levels.
yeah, there are 3 levels of listening, and then there's also body language, right? And that's something new that's in the mix, because back when I trained, it was before Zoom. It was before virtual technology. So when I was trained as a coach, it was all by the phone. It was all over the phone. And I encourage my students to do some phone coaching, because when you eliminate one of your senses, the others automatically strengthen. So it's a different level. I think it's a little bit of a different twist, and I don't want them to miss out on that, much as we all enjoy Zoom. So we're listening and active. We're listening, and we're listening at 3 different levels, right? So the one thing that I let them know is that we listen at 125 to 250 words a minute. That's how much we listen. How fast do you think we think? Any idea on what that number is? If we listen at 125 to 250 words a minute, we got to remember that voice is also in there talking, right?
We think it twice that. No?
Yes, we think at almost 1,000 words a minute.
Yeah.
So we only recall in a normal conversation, we only
Right.
recall 50% of what was said.
Yep.
And of that 50%, in a regular conversation, we can only recall 20% of what we heard.
Wow.
Like, think about that. I mean, really sit with that. I tell my students that we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth, so the ears should do double the work. Though today you have me doing all the talking because you're at the airport, so
right.
I'm trying to compensate for that. So
I'm here to hear you.
yeah. So so when we look at the different levels of listening, the most important thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are listening to understand. So I start with just chatting about like subjective listening, right? In subjective listening, we're really aware of ourselves. That's where the awareness is. I might be listening to the words of what you're saying, Dale, but I take it and I put my attention on what it means about me. So in subjective listening, what you're really doing is it's based on the needs and agenda of the listener, not the person speaking.
So you even jump to the sex. So I often say 4 because I start with the self-focused listening. Those folks that always those folks that can't wait till someone finishes and they're not listening at all. It really isn't listening.
Total unconscious. Love
it. Yeah, exactly. So that really isn't listening.
What do you call that? I've got my pen.
Self-focused listening. And I was gonna laugh when I say, well, all of you, I'm sure none of you know anybody who can't wait till you finish to start talking. And they all laugh because we all know people that do that. And that's the self-focused listening. And then you go to kind of attentive.
Yeah.
So one of the beauties of being at the airport is I just sit back and just hear people converse. I hear questions, I hear answers, I hear listening.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot. If you just kind of sit on the subway and just observe the coaching interaction or lack of interaction that happens in the world around you.
So I'm going to swipe that from you. I'm adding it to the class, but I'm going to give you credit.
Once again, I got that from, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The thing about that type of listening, right? The self-focused listening or the subjective listening is that the listener's thoughts and judgments, everything relates back to themselves. Yes, you don't want to do that because the focus is on the client and the client's agenda. So the other level of listening is more of an objective listening, right? And that's where there's a great deal of focus and attention on the person that's speaking, right? And the listener may not really have any thoughts about themselves, but they're not really present and focused enough to get to the heart of the matter, which brings us to that deeper level of listening, which is really what I call intuitive listening. And intuitive listening is the fairy dust of the coach. It involves deep listening. It involves all the components of a person. It's intuitively connecting to the real message, right? It's listening at every level. And it's listening to beliefs, values, paying attention to what the person said and what they didn't say, right? Careful not to make assumptions, right? Just being curious. It really is the most powerful form of listening. And at that level, you're really connecting with your client. And then I do add the body language piece now, because we are in a virtual world and we do have to look at body language, but I don't like body language to distract from what you're really hearing.
Yeah, no, that's right. But the big point is really to enhance that level of listening, and like everything else, it's practice.
Yes,
really practice. I mean, once you get off this call, begin to practice listening, and we talk too about it. It's the same kind of thing you talk about, contextual and empathetic listening, to really understand when someone says something, what's going on in their world, why are they saying it. They could say the exact same thing one day, and then on another day say the exact same thing, but mean something totally different because of the context in which. And that's the beauty of this. And that, I mean, listening and questioning is everything. And so
Yeah.
this kind of program really helps you delve into that and think about you or yourself and other things in ways you've never thought about them before.
And we have to remember too, when working with clients, that although we're listening to understand, right, we are listening to really understand what they're saying. And there are a lot of techniques that we use so the client knows that we're understanding them and knows that we're listening at that level. But it's also equally important that to know that the client, the phrase is nothing has meaning but the meaning we give it, right? So the client is making an interpretation of something that was said through their very own filter, which may have nothing to do with it. And they are giving themselves, they are attaching something, a meaning to that maybe the other speaker didn't mean. And that's where it becomes internalized. And that's where we really can get in our own way if we don't work on that. Coaching is hard work for the coach and also for the client. Both people have to meet together and roll up their sleeves and really want to allow themselves to be vulnerable, build good conversations based on trust, and face the challenges together.
And it's extraordinarily rewarding when you do that, when you put in the hard work, when both the coach and the coachee put in that hard work, it really can be transformational.
It's very
and I always share the story that when I first got into it, I was in consulting my whole life. I'm used to kind of telling people, do this is how you become successful. And to go from that to really being a coach and letting people develop their own or find their own answers. At first I said, well, I didn't do anything. But then they said, that was fantastic. That was the best thing I ever had. I'm transforming my life. If I had just told them to do something, it wouldn't have been sustainable. And so often in society, we either tell people or we look for people to tell us what to do, instead of really kind of utilizing this coach perspective on how we live and how we parent and how we interact and how we hang with friends and how we work. It's really, really much more important than we give it credit for.
Dale, I see that we're almost approaching the top of the hour. May I share a little something from Thomas Leonard that I think
Yes, please do.
will fit really nicely here. So Thomas Leonard is regarded as the modern, the modern founder of coaching of what we know it to be today. That's not to say that Maslow and Galloway and all the others along the line, going all the way back to the Greeks when coaches were called tutors, right? It is not something that is new. It's something that's developed and constantly changing. But Thomas Leonard, who founded the International Coaching Federation, or the International Coach Federation, as it was called then, has a definition of coaching that I really think gets to the heart of the matter. And puts it a little bit more in perspective to some of the questions that you asked me early on. So Thomas Leonard's definition of coaching is as follows. A coach is your partner in achieving your personal goals, your champion during turnaround, your trainer in communication skills and life skills, your sounding board when making choices, your motivator when strong actions are called for, your unconditional support when you take a hit, your mentor in personal development, your co-designer when developing an extraordinary project, your beacon during stormy times, your wake-up call if you don't hear your own, and most importantly, your partner in living the life you know you're ready for, personally and professionally.
Perfect. It's very well said. Very, very well said. And a good way is to begin our closeout. And so what's next? If somebody wants to learn more about the coaching program, where do they go? How do they find information? And when does it start?
So, Dale, I don't know if I can post anything in the chat because I don't know how the team set it up for today.
Yeah, you can post stuff in the chat for everybody.
Will others see it? if I do that?
Just do it to everyone. It says to
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah,
will see it.
I just wasn't sure how, how we were set up on that. So what I'm going to do is I will post in the chat the actual link to our website where they can get some immediate information. So let me do that now. Also knowing that the FDU office and my office here are available for any questions or follow-up questions. That web page, there is also the ability to download a brochure from that web page. And Dale, I also want to invite them if anyone would like to learn more, and you will see that as well on that web page. We have 3 information sessions coming up. One is April 6th. Another is April 21st, and the last will be May 2nd. Our program does start May 12th. So that web page will give everyone everything that they need. I also want to mention that that we are giving an early registration discount. And the early registration expires April 15th. And again, that is on the website. And there's about $1,000 cost savings
Right.
if you register at that point. In addition, what I'm going to do, because you know how the program is so very high touch, I'm just seeing if I can grab my information. And I don't know if I have that. Here we go. I'm also going to post my information in the website, in the chat as well. I'm assuming that all of you already have the contact information at FDU.
Yes.
Dale's office, Susan and Maura are great in there, Dale as well, but I also posted my contact information in the chat. Please feel free to reach out. Please join us at an information session. We're here to support you on this journey. And we'd love for you to join us in May.
Well, Joe, thank you so very much. This has been fantastic. I'm going to go. My plane's going to board in a little while. But just thank you all for watching. I hope this was informative with coaching, but also with life. And Joe, it's always a pleasure to have you and to be teaming up with you. Let me tell you something. I've never gotten so many compliments about a program that I'm getting about the people that are in this current program. So my hat's off to you, and just want to thank you and Maura and Sue for helping us make this happen. So you're actually the host. No, I made you the host. So I'm gonna leave now.
Okay.
If you want to stay on, you can stay on, but I'm gonna leave to go.
Okay, so you can leave. I have a couple questions.
Okay, perfect.
Answer. Denise Elbert is saying there's no way to save the info. By Dale. So this is actually set up as a webinar. So let me pause the recording.